Well, first of all, the 737-800 is a very reliable airplane. I personally have flown it as a pilot for over 5,000 hours, never had a problem. So the airplane's very reliable. It's interesting to see that the aircraft actually got to about 5,000 feet above ground before it started to descend, and there was obviously fire in that. So I'd rule out things like icing, the cause of the accident. So there's obviously a fire of some sort. Whether the fire was caused by the engine blowing up, caused by just the engine blowing up for some reason, or there was a bomb on board, or it was hit by a missile. I don't know. It is an interesting fact that there was another pilot on the jump seat, so there were three pilots on the flight deck. So the pilots may have been undergoing some form of training or a check. That's an interesting fact. The other thing, which I'm a bit sort of big question mark, is the Iranian authorities said they're not going to allow Boeing to have the black box. Now we know that Boeing right now is going through a bit of a difficult patch because of the 737 MAX accident that happened last year. Those airplanes have been grounded. For the 737-800 to crash, that's not good for Boeing. And I think it's important for Boeing to understand why this accident happened.
Right. It does seem unfair for Boeing. I mean, can they do something about that? Is Iran allowed to hold back those black boxes once it's completed, especially its investigation?
Well, I mean, it happened in Iranian territory, Ukraine aircraft. So obviously, the Ukrainian authorities are going to be involved. The Iranian authorities are going to be involved. I mean, eventually, Boeing will get the information. But if I was a Boeing executive right now, I'd really want to see the black box now and be involved in the initial stage of the investigation. But the Iranians can, it happened in their own country. Everything is there in their country. They can do what they want, unfortunately.
Right.
So this could create some sort of more tension between the US and Iran. But it's still early to really understand what really did happen here.
Okay, another piece of information, though, that slipped out. Iranians are saying that there was no emergency call or distress call from the pilots before the plane went down. In what kind of situation would nobody be able to make any sort of call for help or at least send out any kind of emergency signal?
Well, first of all, engine failures on takeoff usually happen immediately after takeoff. And what the pilots need to do, they coordinate between each other. There's some memory items the pilots need to do. But one of the things they do is advise air traffic control that they've had a failure and what their intention is. This call didn't happen. So this makes me think that there was some form of internal explosion or it may have been hit by something. I don't think it's a natural failure. But again, I don't know how the pilots are trained in Ukraine, what the standards are, what their standard operating procedures are. But if it was something that happened, like a normal emergency, some form of communication would have happened from the airplane to the air traffic controllers. And because that didn't happen, there's suspicion there that it may have been an external factor that caused this crash, meaning a missile or a terrorist, a
Right.
bomb or something like that. But again, it's still early days.
It is. And
Yeah.
we don't want to speculate. I understand that. But, as far as the plane is concerned, it underwent a maintenance check as we know, I think less than 48 hours actually before the plane took off. As you said, it's this Boeing 737 model is very reliable. This plane itself was only a few years old. And Iran is saying, well, no, it's just coincidence that, short-range ballistic missiles were being fired in the area within around the same time range as when this plane went down. So yes, I know we don't want to speculate, but wow, that's an amazing coincidence.
Yeah, it is. And one has to wonder if it was intentionally shot down or the missile hit the airplane by mistake. That can
We don't
happen.
know.
That's happened before. So I really, it's really early days to understand. And of course, all these coincidences are there, which leads someone to suspect that maybe the airplane was shot down.
So how should this actually affect travel to Iran as well as over Iranian airspace?
Well, I would be very careful. I mean, if anybody is planning to travel to Iran on business and that, I would delay that right now. I'd stay away from the region. Even with some of my clients that fly in their private jets around the world for business, I'm recommending to not go to Iran. So right now, just, let's just stay away and see how things develop over the next few weeks and then make a decision from there.